This was obviously a very short noticed, organised night, so I'm glad you all came. We weren't sure how many people would turn up, but I appreciate you all coming down. And we thought it was fitting, like right now we've got a good marlin bite, so we thought we'd have a quick chat and try and help everyone in whichever way. We've got a mixture of abilities and experiences here. So feel free, we'll do like some questions at the end, but feel free to ask us anything you like. So we thought we'd start with our game fishing essentials. And so we'll start with some simple things like what the gear that we need when we go fishing. Obviously, game rod. But just let's talk about that for a second. So have you guys been using Tiagras or Talicas, that type of, you're all familiar with them all? Like what we're seeing from our side of things, we're seeing like, I'd say like 80%, 90% of our sales now have gone to Talicas or a Pen VISX or the Daiwa Saltiga, that type of reel, which is all braid-based reels. They're generally lighter, faster retrievals, and just more fun. Like that's got the same line capacity the way we've got this rigged as a Tiagra 50 wide. So, you know, even little Zay's almost ready to use one of these. So yeah, and some of the rods we've actually helped design, like this one in particular, it's a Sabre custom roller tip. So what you're finding is more people are going towards guided rods with a roller tip and instead of fully rolled rods. And basically we've got braid backing on this. We've got about 500 or 600 metres of braid, and then top shotted with 24 kilo. And generally we're using wind-ons, like most of us using wind-ons. And there's advantages and disadvantages of it, but there's a safety element to wind-ons, which is what we sort of encourage everyone to use. We'll go to the next one. So we'll go through the different techniques, and what you can see there is I've put it in a bit of an order from trolling, switch baiting, skip baiting, live baiting. Those 4 different methods that most people have heard of and use. Trolling is something that we go at the fastest speed through to live baiting at the slowest speed. So you've got these techniques and just realise that certain times of the year, certain type of species of marlin might, in certain areas, you might use trolling versus live baiting and everything in between. So we'll go through right now, we'll have a bit of a chat on why you would do it. Why would we use trolling as a method?
Cover more ground.
Cover more ground, yeah. We know, like say we know that there are certain sort of area zones. Quite often, like the shelf is a very popular zone, and you can be guaranteed if you go up and down the shelf, you'll eventually come across marlin. So covering that ground is very important. Also, certain species, trawling-wise, can be quite effective on. So say like something like a blue marlin, yes, you can do all the other methods, but blue marlin fishing, a lot of people like troll lures for them. So I would always suggest we've got to go through each one of them and just when you go fishing, be prepared to do any one of those techniques because you just don't know which one's the right one at the time. So trolling is covering ground. Switch baiting is you're still covering ground, but sometimes when you've got things like striped marlin around, they can be a bit finicky and hard to hook up. And so switch baiting is another way you can try and get your hookup rate a bit better. That being said, when you're switch baiting, your hookup rate might go up, but it requires a bit more experience from everyone to do it. So if you don't have a crew that are all working together with a plan, switch baiting can be pretty poor hookup rate if you don't have those things in line. So switch baiting is like the most fun way out of the whole lot, I reckon, to do it. And then skip baiting is, going a bit slower again. So trolling, you're 6-7 knots. Switch baiting the same 6-7 knots, even up to 8. Skip baiting you're at sort of 5 knots, 6 knots, and then live baiting about 3 knots, depending on the size of your bait. So if they're big baits, you can get away with 3.5, and if you're going smaller baits, you've got to go slower. So skip baiting, the good thing about skip baiting is that obviously if the marlin comes up and grabs it, a skip bait, it's like you've pitched the live bait, so you've got a circle hook rig, like the way Jay's got it rigged there. It's the Profigi sample. But yeah, skip baiting is good in the sense that you, if they bite the bait, they just let them swallow it and hook them. So that's the good thing about it. Obviously skip baiting, you've got to rig more baits, so you need more bait to do it. So that's one of the things you've got to work on with skip baiting. And then with live baiting, where would you start live baiting, do you think?
Bait balls.
Bait balls, yeah? Yep. So if you've located the bait.
Yeah, when you've found the fish and they're all concentrated in one area.
Yeah. So if you know that there's marlin in an area and there's bait, and also if you start marking fish down deeper, so you're going slower but you're covering a little bit more depth. And you've got ability to target fish down deeper because you're going a bit slower, then you can even, like, say you mark one down deep, it's a lot easier to just stop the boat and potentially bomb a live bait down to where the fish actually are. So, but live baiting, when you don't know where the fish are, can be very, you're covering not much ground. It still can be effective. We've done it sometimes, but you're not covering the ground. So,
yeah, I mean, majority of the time we are starting with trolling or switching and then moving to live baiting maybe, even when we go to the shelf.
Yeah, like if you're coming into, say, you've started to find bait, you've marked a few fish, you're coming into a tide change, and you can start seeing the bait starting to come up. Like that's a good time to live bait, So if you can prepare for live baiting, if you can prepare for all those methods on your days, like because everyone asks us, "Oh, you guys catch fish you live baiting or you're switching?" We actually go out there prepared to do all the different ways, and we'll maybe chat as we go through this on some of the ways to increase your hookup rates with each of those methods. Yeah, we'll go to the next one. This is Jay's favourite. He's the finding fish expert. Where are you going to fish, Jay?
Shall we go through it? Oh, okay. Well,
I
mean, does everyone know how to read a chart? Kind of. So I'll just be quick. So like generally the direction of the arrows will be the direction of the current. The size of the arrows is the speed of the current. And obviously you've got temperature changes with the colour. So this is today's chart, just to make it a little bit more relatable. So like you have got like a nice temp change there. You've obviously got the continental shelf there, so you've got your structure with the temp change. Current's not too bad. I actually don't know where I put this little cursor, but I know the current wasn't too bad. So if I was going tomorrow, that there is Browns. I would say inside of Browns is not a bad spot. So yeah, you've got a little bit of everything there.
You can see a little bit less current inside of Browns. Now this is not necessarily the most perfect chart at the moment, but this is the other side of things. Like a lot of us look at charts, but reality is there is marlin out there. People are catching marlin at the moment, and there's lots of grounds that you're catching marlin this time of the year. So yeah, all of that zone just on the shelf actually looks decent enough because there's not too much current, which then means bait doesn't get flushed down, so it's getting stuck there. And the temperature's right for marlin. So yes, there is a very good bite down south, as you would have seen and heard of, and those charts probably, I don't know, I haven't looked down there recently, but they might look a bit more what you would say is perfect conditions.
Yeah, probably important to note, so slack current is better at holding bait or bait aggregation. So yeah, if you've got raging current, naturally bait, it's hard for them to stack. You've got the structure with the shelf. With slack current, the bait can stack there. So it's a good thing to look at. So even that, I wouldn't be surprised, even all along the shelf here, the current's pretty slack, you could find bait anywhere there.
Yeah. What we're doing south, is it perfect at the moment, Alex?
I haven't checked it, but normally it's either current's coming down and then flushing right into it.
Yeah, yeah, it's almost like the end of the conveyor belt kind of thing. The location's good. I've been there when the current's not great and there's still bait there. The structure there is amazing. So,
That biter fish down there did come past us
Mm.
a few months ago, and so there was a good bite. Like there's still we're getting more fish now, and there's a lot more black marlin now turning up. As we get that hotter water, we're getting more numbers of black marlin. And what you'll find in that strong current, which is really hot, you'll get some
Blues.
blue marlin,
Wahoo.
dolphin fish. They'll start to come in those. There's been quite a few rat yellowfin out there recently, off the shelf. So that's what that hot water brings, but it also brings a lot of barren land too. So that's the pros and cons of it. But in saying that, myself and some of our crew that we go fishing, we look at charts, but we also, a big key is talking to our friends and customers and whatnot and hearing what's going on at the moment. And that intel is very important. So even at this point, I'll say joining game fishing clubs is a good way of getting that, building those friendships, relationships, and then getting that knowledge. As every game fishing club I know now has a WhatsApp group that tells each other what's going on at the time, which is good because it's a fairly tight-knit groups that are in them and they share that information. So it's a good way, if you're not joined up with the club, it's a good way to get some knowledge. I guess that's inside information that we got up there. All right, next one. So we get asked a lot about boat setups and outriggers. I guess one of the questions we get asked a lot is to do with whether you have a tagline. Do you know what everyone knows what a tagline is? So I guess we could, my drawing is terrible, but this could be interesting, but let's see. So we've got a boat. Let's see if I draw it. Maybe this way. This is quality. Okay. Let's go. Here's our. Look at my boat. Looks like a house. So we've got an outrigger like that. So your tagline. So you've got a. Well, let's make a couple of ringlets, big ones, and so let's put one there. So you're going to have your main line going around like that, and then you're going to have a tagline. I'll put it in the out position now, so it's going to drop back like that. So then you've got your fishing rod here. It's a lovely fishing rod. I'll put a reel on it. And so basically that line is going to go like that, like that. So if we were trolling, probably in the way a bit, bring it down here. You guys can't see. So if we're trolling a lure, the advantage of doing that tagline is that when you get a bite, there's not that much slack line because that angle is going to become like that a lot faster than if it went like that and then like that. So if we're live baiting, we really do need a rubber end here. If we're live baiting, we wouldn't use the tagline, and that rod would go to the tip there with a release clip, so that when you get a bite, thanks Jay, when you get a bite, you've got all that slack line. That's going to start off that time that the marlin's not going to feel any pressure and get time for a circle hook to go in.
We call that a drop back in a way.
Yeah.
So you'll actually see a really good example in the video. Like this is the bite that it comes off the release clip. Boom, and there would have been a little drop back, like a second for the guy to get to the rod, point the rod to the fish, in free spool, all the way into free spool. Yeah, he probably would have gone up by now. All the rest of the stuff is coming in, and yeah, I think he is tight here. Yeah.
Yeah, that's Mike Bonici's B team.
But yeah, dredge comes in. So that's a live baiting process as soon as you get the bite.
Anyone got any questions on outriggers setups? Or it's basically those two main concepts we got. So, yeah.
Free spooling,
Yes.
to give it time for the fish to
Yeah.
bite it.
Yep.
Yep. Straight away you got a free spool.
Yeah.
Yeah, always.
So on that, so live baiting or skip baiting on Italica, full free spool, if it was to pull, it'll just backlash, right? So you've got to just put it into gear, up a couple of notches, that just goes in there. Now, let's put it a little bit tight. So what we do is when we get up to, with the slack out, when you wind the handle, it'll just spin like that. that's when we know it's enough tension to stop it from, not doing a backlash on it. So that's the position we would have it for live baiting and for skip baiting. So yeah, we can talk about drag settings, the next thing we're going to be talking about anyway. So yeah, for live baiting, switch baiting, just like that, free spool, but not full free spool, right? For trolling lures, we're going to have it in strike position at 1/3 of your breaking strain is what most of us are doing. So yeah, on 24 kilo, it's going to be 8 kilos of drag. And just on drag settings, like that's what we would set this at for the strike. Now, you get a blue marlin that's going to go ballistic across the ocean, and you factor in waves, like a lot of pressure. It's all adding pressure. The more current waves, belly is going to be created. Yeah. So I did one test like years ago. I was running like 15 kilo line, and we had a loop in the line, and so we actually had no lure on the outfit. We just had a swivel in the end, and we let the line out to fix it. We got all the way to about last 50 meters, and put the drag up, and took one wind and snapped the line. And so that's how much pressure that belly is. So yeah, basically when you go halfway down your spool, you've doubled your drag. So, and then that's the general rule, right? But when you factor in those other influences like the sea and whatnot, it can be, and then the fish, if it's motoring really fast, it's all adding more pressure to your line. So quite often when we're fishing, 24 kilo, in particular something like 15, on say something like a blue marlin, once we hook up, we'll actually back the drag down a fair bit on that initial run. And it's the common error that people make is that they see the fish taking a lot of line and they go, oh, I've got to stop this thing and push the drag up. And that's when you'll bust them off. The reality is when you're putting, whether you're putting 8 kilos or 6 kilos of pressure, it's not going to make any difference to that fish going crazy. He's going to run it. It's not going to make a difference to him at all. So let him do that first run, back it down. If you're running out of line, obviously you've got to start chasing after that fish as opposed to just worrying about clearing your deck.
So with live baiting, once they hit, do you power on or do you keep going?
So when you're live baiting, you're going about 3 knots, right? So fish bites, then we pick up the rod, put it in the free spool with your thumb on it so it doesn't backlash. So you've got to put as little pressure as possible. Because look, when you're live baiting, you don't know if the fish are going to grab it and bolt. Sometimes he'll come straight up to your dredge and you don't even think you got anything on the end of your line. You thought you bust off, but he's just swimming right at the back of the boat. It says everything in between those two situations will happen when you get with live baiting. So you've got to just be prepared that he's going to bolt, but put as little pressure as possible. Push the drag up, you've hooked up. You've only generally got to clear a dredge and another rod, generally with live baiting. So you generally will clear that as you're still going at 3 knots ahead. Obviously, if the fish starts charging at you, you've got to get the boat out of the way. But, I mean, we quite often see on footage when people are dragging lures in particular, they get a bite and they gun the boat. And that's, as far as I'm concerned, it's got the same amount of pressure. If you got 8 kilo, if you're using the right, and I'll come to it, the right size hook for the line, for the drag that you're using, that hook will go in on that initial bite. And it's either in or it's going to come out at some point in the fight. But if it's in, it's very hard to get these hooks out of their bone structure. So, when we see people driving away and then they can start saying, oh, it's taken so much line, it's really, they're driven away from the fish. And like most fights you'll find, the roughly 150 metres of top shot that we have on these, like yes, you'll go into the braid, that's normally on the initial hookup and clearing the deck, but you're actually really fighting the fish on the mono. Like 150 metres is a 1.5 football fields. And you start conceptually thinking about how far that fish is away from you. It's a fair way. So if you get him 500-600 metres away, your drag's gone doubled, you've got to back the drag off, start getting back that line. But once you're getting a bit closer to the fish, you can, and say he's not running as much, you can push your drag up. And that's where there's a big difference between 8 and 10 kilos of drag, huge on your leverage. So that's when you can really get back that line that you've lost in that first run. Once it calms down, you can push that drag just a bit over the button. A good rule with Italica, there's a screw there and there's a screw at the top. So when they're running crazy, we back it down to that button there, and then the strike, and then we'll go over just up to there. And that's giving you roughly 2 kilos either side of the drag. So that's what we do, yeah. Any questions on that? No? Oh, we'll do the fun part. Everyone loves the lure spread. And everyone has an opinion on the colours and which ones are the best and all that. So we'll just show you like a common spread to start with and why we would choose it. So this is like a typical size for, say, 24 kilo line class, and off Sydney it'll catch you everything. So, you know, we've got like this little Fat Boy Rogue. It's a pusher. So I'll show you, I'll pass them around just so you can see the differences. So that one obviously just runs dead straight and pushes a lot of water. Something like that, dark, we put that in the short corner. And is the next slide the one with the picture?
So, yeah.
Yeah, we'll work these two together. So that's your short corner, just in there. So that's something that we would typically use, yeah.
How far back is that one there?
I would say around about 15 metres roughly. Depends on your, we sort of call it the second wave, but it's a bit hard because some trailer boats, the waves are different to big boats and all that. But yeah, we run about, we probably should put some metres roughly on there, but that's roughly about 10, that's roughly about 15. That'd be about 20, 25 to 30. Around 40 and about 50 metres for the shotgun. So something like that would be typically what I'd use in the short corner. So you want to
Pass that around.
You can pass that around while we're talking. So that lure is just going to be smoking away. It's dark. The concept is that in close you've got whitewash. A dark lure in close would be a silhouette from underneath for a marlin, making it an easier target for them. And the good thing is being a straight pushing lure, it's the easiest one. It's not moving around much. So it's easy for them to eat. That's why we would put that in there typically. I would use that. This one here is like, it's a tube. So it's got a slant on it. It's the most active lure that we're going to run. We generally run that like in a long corner position, slightly lighter in colour, but still a natural tunery, frigate tuner sort of colour. So yeah, it's more action, but still a fairly stable lure. That's what we'd run, like say in the long corner. Pass that around. And then on the short rigger, something like this. It's a pusher, but it's not as aggressive. Right, it's a smoke trail, but it's like a thinner smoke trail. You could easily use that on your short rigger. Again, we're getting a bit brighter in colour. Still, we've got here still like that, 9 to 10 inch size lures. And then on your long rigger, we're going to go a little bit smaller lure and a bright, something like a Lumo. This is a slant, but it's very stable slant, and it actually has, whether it's this devil or something like a dingo, it's going like that sort of action, but it's also got a bit of a side to side to it. So it's a bit of action. And yeah, as a shotgun, a typical bullet with some lovely flash inside. Very bright, especially on a sunny day, you'll see that. An easy target for a lazy marlin. And that's your typical lure spread for trawling. But I will say that there's no rules to it, and start thinking about what these lures do, and then you go, okay, maybe on this particular day it's calm, or this is a really rough day, how would this lure work differently? So for example, on a really calm day, if you bring a bullet shorter, it's going to have more action. So, and like say on your on your short rigger is going to be the really steepest action. So if you want something to give more like skiddling along the top, you could run something like a bullet on a short rigger or in a long corner. Yeah, there's no rules to it, but so just keep that in mind. That, and I would always try things like move things around, just see, look, watch the way the lure's working, because some days the conditions are different. So some days you need a little bit more action. Sometimes it's good to have something lazy. Any
Any fish on a particular lure, do you try and change over that colour or anything like that, or do you just stay with what you got, or?
I'm generally still just run. I'll definitely run the lure again.
Yeah, of course.
So I may like re-rig the lure if I've only got one of them.
No, I'm more saying like.
Yeah, but similar colours.
Or if you have two of the same, or maybe.
Yeah, there's some guys that have theories where they'll run the exact same lure in 5 positions, you know, to make like a school of fish.
Yeah.
They're all theories, but I mean, I think marlin just like they're like, yeah, I don't know. With you guys, there's been so many times where a marlin has eaten a lure when we're not even moving. So they're pretty, like probably one of the dumbest animals around.
How critical is it to keep the leader out of the water then? Because combining
The concept of that is obviously, if the leader's out of the water, the marlin's only focus is on the lure. There's this bubble going on. It's good in theory. It's very hard to.
Sometimes impossible to.
Yeah. So what you can do as an alternative is not necessarily run as heavy leaders as some people might do. So typically something on 24 kilo line, we'll be running, generally it's about 250 pound mono as our leader. I don't remember the last time a customer out of all the lures that we rig has worn through a 250 pound leader. If you were in a competition and you were trying to capture a fish and you had to put a lot of pressure on it, then yeah, you'd probably want to go a bit heavier. But
When you go through that.
we're going to talk about, whilst we're still on lures, I just want to talk about the hook selection, because you know quite often we're getting people saying, "Oh, our hookup rates are terrible on trawling lures. I'm sick of lures." That comment gets brought up a fair bit, and quite often it's because you're running sometimes the wrong size thickness of hook with the line class, or you're not matching your line class to your hook thickness and to your lure size and the fish you're targeting. So you've got to put all of them together. You know, think, okay, there's mainly striped marlin, black marlin around, and they're averaging 50 to 100 kilos. What's the right size hook? And then maybe think about the lure. You know, the thickness of the hook and the size of the hook, and then think about the actual lure you want to run with it, as opposed to, you know, this is my favourite lure and I have to run it, which is very commonly thought about that way. So all of these lure hooks, if you look at them, that one there looks, that's a medium gauge, that's a light gauge, and that's a heavier gauge. And there's even heavier again than this. But the gape of the hook, so between the point and the shaft, they're virtually the same on all 3 of these hooks. So this light gauge hook here has the smallest barb and has the thinnest gauge hook. So that one's going to go in the easiest out of the whole lot. So something like 15 kilo line class or less, if you want a good hookup rate, that hook is a fantastic hook. That's a BKK hook. So if you want your hookup rate to increase, great. Now, what's the negative of it? So obviously you get a fish close to the boat and you want to leader that fish, you can't put much pressure on it. You certainly, if you were trying to capture a fish, it's risky. And also the other thing is, if you get like a nice big dolly and you want to pull on that leader, you can open them up, right? But if you're gentle with it and you know what its purpose is for, you should be okay for most fish. We've definitely caught good sized yellowfin and mahi-mahi on this hook, but you just got to be careful. So I'll get Zay to pass it around. You'll see there's a little anode on it. That's because it's a chemically sharpened hook. So you need to put that on those type of hooks. This one here, which is made by Maruto, but they're called Sabre.
Sabre 192.
192s. That one there is like a medium. It's a short shank, a little bit more open gate, but we find a really good hookup rate on that. So guys using them on 24 kilo, 15, 24 kilo, it's a really good hook for it. And you get a yellowfin, you get a dolly on it, you can pull on them pretty good. So that's the one that we would rig most of the time for marlin for overall. And yeah, it's a very effective hook. Like to a lot of people, that's their favourite hook. How's that one say? This one here is another one made by Maruto, but it's called a Sabre Talon. Yeah. Also, same hook that Black Magic released as well. Obviously, heavier gauge. Again, slightly bigger in the barb. This one I sharpened myself because I wanted to put it in one of my lures. So you can have a feel of that when we pass it around. But yeah, a little bit bigger barb, a thicker hook. But we're going to run that on, like, you can run on 24 kilos, say if you're chasing, say, blue marlin, yellowfin, that type of fishing, or typically on 37 kilo line class, you'd run that. But it's all the same hooks, we're running in the same lure. Yeah.
That wire at the end, is it like before the hook, is that just to keep it straight protection, just to...
This wire?
Yeah.
Yeah, all of them have wire on them.
Yeah.
This wire is thicker than the other ones because it's a heavier gauge. So this is 800 pound on that one. The other ones have 600 pound. 400 would be more like, the only reason why I'm using 600 on the others is because it gives a bit of stiffness. So this is typically how we rig our lures. We use a light heat shrink. It's still flexible. See how there's still movement. Like if a marlin grabs that, it's going to bend it. That's the way we like it. Some people like to really make that extremely stiff, and they'll actually double up this wire in here to add stiffness and then put more heat shrink on it. But I like the fact that because these hooks point in more close, that it will actually technically go like that and then roll in a little bit. And I like the fact that once you've hooked up, that there's some play and movement. So we rig it this way. There's enough flexibility in there. There's other ways you can do it. You've probably seen where you heat shrink the top and heat shrink the bottom, and the in between's loose, and it's a lot more loose. That's good, but you'll find when you get a bite, it will rip it off, and you've got to refix that as you're going. So we find this quite a tough rig that lasts and works well. Pass that one around. Switch baiting setup. So you want to grab a dredge?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So typically you've got 2 teasers, a shotgun. So a shotgun is going to be just it could be that little bullet we had before. We actually put it with a hook in it, and that's there as a safety net. It's for the marlin that we don't see. But mainly it's there for the dollies and the tuna, like the bycatch. So we'd have a shotgun at about 50 metres out the back, and then we'd have the teasers in around that 25 to 30 metres. We'd have them around the same distance as each other, and we have a dredge in there. So,
example is teasers.
Yeah, we'll have a look at a teaser. Yeah. So you can see the size of the teasers we're looking at here. A lot bigger than the ones that we typically use with hooks in them. Because obviously that size lure is a smaller target, and like the hook in here is a lot more distance between them. They love these big lures to hit them, but the hook up rate's not easy. And the hook that you got to use to go over the size of the head is so big and heavy, it's hard to drive that hook in on the line classes that we use like locally. So that one generally will have the hook in it. Something like that's our teaser. And don't worry, like the 20 kilo marlin will have a good crack at that. He doesn't care. So Jay's got like a wolfpack bird teaser with a thunderstruck behind it. Again, it's just a big lure causing a lot of commotion. You could use that by itself, or you could put this sort of flippy floppy style teaser. The only thing I'll say is the more action you put in there, we all think will more chance of raising fish. It's also a little bit harder in certain conditions to see the fish. So if it's rough and you want to switch, which is the hardest one, don't put too much, like just literally go to 2 lures out there and your dredge. So the concept of switching obviously is you want them to come up on your big teasers, and then you pull that teaser in while someone pitches a bait. Generally, if your dredge is on that side, you'd pitch your bait down here. This one's being pulled in at the same time as your bait comes out. You put your bait around here, and then if you haven't had a bite by then, and you have 2 baits ready, you deploy the second bait, and you let this one go back to here, and this one comes in here. So whilst you're switching, you always leave your shotgun out, and you pull your teasers in, and you leave your dredge out until you get a bite. Generally, once your baits have gotten out, you're going to slow your boat down. When you slow the boat down, your lure is going to be a little bit less active and less likely, but they do get eaten at that slow speed. Just be mindful of it. So if it does, and then in that case, just keep in mind that if you've slowed the boat down and you've put your baits out and he's gone and grabbed the teaser, try and either wind into it or just get that boat going a little bit just to help set that drag. Because at 3 knots, it is still pulling technically 8 kilos drag, but if he's not going away yet, it's hasn't got enough pressure to put the hook in.
Sorry, so,
Yep.
yeah, I'll just say, I'm on the shotgun, has that actually got a hook in it?
Yeah.
That's the only...
That's the only one. It'd be something typically,
Yeah.
like imagine you've got these big lures out as teasers and you've got something small like that right out the back. And it will get eaten by marlin, but you want to get all the bycatch with it. But you're trying to attract them on that.
Yeah.
And if the fishing's hot and lots of marlin around, get rid of this.
Yeah.
Just get rid of it. And then just
Yeah.
fish.
I wouldn't put it that too close to the teasers as
Yeah.
well. Otherwise, I'll go straight
Yeah.
to that. Yeah.
It's almost double the distance between these guys and this. But you got a dredging close, which is all that commotion. You've got all these big teasers. You're most likely to bring the marlin in, which is what you're trying to do when you're switching. And also with switching, you can switch obviously with a dead bait or a live bait, which we have both examples here. That's live bait, so it's bridle rigged. Zay, gonna pass it around? And that's a dead bait, so you could skip that. That's the same way you'd rig it to skip it as well. What would be the difference between the live bait and the dead bait for this switching? Actually,
Obviously, dead bait will skip and it's a visual bite.
Yeah.
Whereas a live bait is subsurface, so you generally don't see the bite.
yeah. So starting out, it's a lot easier with a dead bait actually. Just let the dead bait go out, hold the rod nice and high so it skips along the surface, and you'll see it. Typically, we're doing this when there's a lot of striped marlin around, and you'll see him come right up and you'll eat it. And it's that way then, when he eats it, you drop your rod straight down into free spool, just thumbing it as well, so that it doesn't burn it. But that's the advantage of using a dead bait. The other advantage of a dead bait is that you're not changing your speed on your boat. You're still going at that 6-7 knots the whole time. With a live bait, obviously, once you get your livey out, you've got to slow your boat down. So there's more moving parts to it, but generally you can't, it's very difficult, not saying you can't, but it's difficult to run a dead bait and a live bait at the same time because you've got different speeds going. So yeah, you'd have to, if you're running a dead bait and want to put a live bait out, you'd have to either let your live bait sort of just drop back a bit, or if you slow the boat down, you've got to keep that right, keep it closer to your dead bait and keep it higher, as high as you can. We like a couple of weeks ago, we went out with some of the youngsters. Young Andre and Max caught their first fish, and we were switching, and the first marlin came up and ate the little lure out the back, and then we were clearing the deck, and a lure of this size was already, the teaser had been pulled in, but it was just dangling, just literally dangling like that, and the marlin came right up on the back of the boat and just literally grabbed it, scratched the whole top of it. And so I went over to pitch a bait to it, and the first bait I picked up, which was supposed to be a live one, he'd actually died. I threw it in, And I said, okay, I'll grab the second one, which was a live one, ready to put it. As I was going to throw it, it ate the dead one just behind the boat. So they do eat the dead bait even without movement. Just, it's not the ideal scenario, but they do eat it, so keep an eye on that. Any questions on switching? Or we? Sure. We can pass that. I'll get Zay to pass that one around. So, yeah, I think we'll talk a little bit about fighting fish and boat positioning and the communication side of fighting a fish. So, obviously I said a third of the breaking strain, and I did mention it earlier, but there's certain parts of your fight where you can push your drag higher, and certain parts you can go drop it down a little bit. So it's when you're starting out, everyone says, just put it at a third of the breaking strain and you'll be right, which you will be right in most situations. But yeah, when the fish takes a big run, a lot of speed, bring that drag down like we spoke before. When you're getting closer to that fish, and say about 200 metres to to 50 metres away from the boat, you can go above the drag if he's not running and going crazy. If you can do it, and then the minute he starts going, if he takes off, just back it down to strike at that point. But in your last 50 metres or so, when you get close to the boat, strike drag is probably where you want to be, because there's not much stretch anymore, less forgiveness, and if you've got him that close with that kind of drag, you don't need more drag to pull them the last bit. You just got to be a bit patient. Boat positioning on fighting a fish, so it's a little bit different between game boats and trailer boats. On a trailer boat, which is probably more common than not now, say we're driving on our lovely boat here. I'll grab a... So we're driving, typically you'd fight the marlin. Grab that one. We don't have an outrigger anymore because we've already put it up. And typically the marlin is going to be, here's our marlin, he's got a nose. So typically you're going to be driving, it's terrible, I know. But that's typically, you're going to be driving towards the marlin. Actually, I should say he's not going that way, because typically he's actually going to be going, oh, this is a bad fish. With a nose there, okay. So typically he's swimming that way and you're driving towards him on that sort of angle. Obviously they change directions, they move, and sometimes you will reverse on them, whatnot, when you get closer, but typically you're driving behind them, you're driving towards them and behind them. With lure fishing, the advantage of that is you're always pulling your hook backwards instead of pulling in front of the nose. I think it's been pretty common for me in times when we've hooked a blue marlin to have a really long fight and get the thing right at the back of the boat, and the minute he turns straight at us, hook comes out. He was never hooked at all. He was just literally wrapped on his nose the whole fight. But it's happened to me on too many occasions, particularly on heavy tackle line for some reason, but it's pretty common. So we try and do it like that. Now, if you're at a big boat, you're going to do the same thing in the sense that I shouldn't be drawing fish. But basically your fish is going to be going, you're going to have the person fighting the fish this way, and your fish is going to be, say, swimming that way, and you're reversing back on them. That's typically on a game boat. But the common thing of what we find is commonly you're driving behind the fish, right? So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty much like what you see here. So that's a trailer boat, fish going that way, outrigger comes up, and yeah, you're chasing fish, just like how Alex drew on that trailer boat drawing. Yeah, this one pops off, obviously, but yeah, that's the kind of direction we're trying to fight the fish on a trailer boat anyway.
You just want to touch on wind on while you're there.
We'll probably, with the leadering.
Yeah, I'm going to do that in a sec. And the other thing about communication is that you got to speak to each other and not scream at each other during, you know, like the communication. Look, we've all been there. I can guarantee you when I started fishing, I used to be very loud, and but that doesn't really, it doesn't work as well as being calm and very specific on what you want to tell your angler or driver to do. As an angler, you've got to communicate with your driver when you've got slack line, because he might be driving towards it, but he doesn't realise the tension is not there, and you might be just creating a big belly as opposed to getting that belly out. So that communication between angler and driver really needs to be there. And then the next bit on the communication will be to do with angler and leaderman.
So when you're hooked up, do you want to be driving with the current or against the current?
It's a good question.
Told you north.
I generally will. We generally will figure out what's the.
It depends what the
like,
fish is doing.
Yeah, obviously when it first starts, it goes going crazy. But then we generally look at the conditions and see what's going on. If it's rough, the last thing you want to do is be punching into that rough sea the whole time. So you've got to try at some point to be going with it and chasing them with it. So you'll position yourself. You may have to get in front of it to follow it down sea. Quite often they do run down sea, but
So if the fish is going that way, you want to be behind it so
Yeah.
that he's pulling into it all the time.
yeah, and ideally, if it's calmer way of doing it, because that adds to all of that. But they look sometimes. You know what? Like it's happened so many times where we're trying to get the fish on one of the sides of the boat, and he just won't come up on that side of the boat. It's just because of where it's hooked. And you'll find that if you do 5 or 6 times on that side and it's just not coming, try getting him on the other side. Change the angle and you'll see. If it starts coming up, you go, okay, we're leading him to the boat as opposed to helping him wedge himself away from the boat. And yeah, like you don't know, like some of these fish can be, like you can knock fish over in very quick times and they can be completely buggered in 5-10 minutes. But you can also do hours and they've still got a lot of life in them. Why don't I just have a chat about safety, some equipment and leadering. Obviously you need some gloves for leadering. So that's these two are sort of typical leadering gloves, as you might know. That'd be like a light line when we're using light tackle, or live baiting with light lines, or light hooks on lures. I use them. If it's a bit heavier tackle, go with a heavier glove. This guy here is really cheap, like less than $10.
Best to grab the bill.
Yeah, grab the bill with that, because you don't want to chew up your leadering gloves. Best to have a set of them for the person grabbing the marlin. It quite often doesn't happen on a trailer boat because there's only one person that's good to do the leadering and grab the fish. But they're not a good leadering glove, they're just good at grabbing bills. Very important to have a release knife. It's from a safety point of view. Quite often you can pull on lures and whatnot and fight them and do there's a video there which we'll show in a second. But it's safer just to cut them off. If you can get close enough and just cut them off. Like I'm talking about with circle hooks in the mouths, like those hooks will corrode out and shouldn't cause too much problem. Obviously with a lure, a D hooker, which I didn't bring up here, but like a 1.2 meter D hooker is very good so you don't have to go and trying to get the hook out of a marlin. There's 2 things going to happen. It's going to shake its head, or it's going to bite you. Right? And the bite, I can tell you, they hurt. They literally, he can be really docile, and it be like 10-15%. But that power in that jaw is extremely strong. So, if the hook's in a certain way that you have to put your hand inside the mouth, you're better off dehooking it with a dehooker at that point. Even pliers if need be, but a dehooker is really easy. But yeah, putting your hand inside, yeah. I had a blue marlin that I was trying to release. It was big, and I put my hand in. He bit me, and I got the hook out, and then he just rolled over and died. So he was literally at the end of his life, and still had the power to really hurt. It's a real shame. It was my first blue marlin, and that was typically what happens. for someone at that time was inexperienced on blue marlin, the marlins, this was 2.97 short length, so it's a big marlin, and you know, it took like 3 hours and 24 kilo. And if we'd hooked that now, the way we drive at fish and what we do, it wouldn't have got as far away. We would have chased straight at it. We would have got that line back. We would have caught that fish probably in an hour to an hour and a half. And so it probably would have survived that fight if I had that time again with it. But it was still dangerous at that reduced power in his body. So let's do a little leadering example. I need an angler and I need a fish. What are you going to be, Jay? You're a fish or an angler? Hey? What do you want to be?
Yeah, grab this.
Figure it out.
It'll be my fish.
You be the fish. Come over this side, Jay. Come out the front. So I'll put some gloves on because this fish is pretty angry. When you're wearing gloves, it's good to just wet them. It just means you're going to less likely burn your leader lines. All right, so go a bit further back.
Yeah, run.
Yeah, all right. All right, put the drag up. Give him heaps, no. So this is a wind-on leader, as we spoke about a bit earlier. So I'll show you the two different techniques for like with a wind-on, without a wind-on, and I'll just show you the wind-on first because this is what I recommend to everyone from a safety point of view. So typically, we've got the fish is pretty close. There's obviously normally a leader beyond that wind-on, so the fish is another, say, 9 feet away. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come up and over the top like this and bring this leader towards me. I'm not, you know, if I'm after being, like when you've done it quite a lot, you can do a bit of this type of thing, but the leverage is that you're going to go overboard. So what we're going to try and do is we're going to try and bring everything where I'm at my strongest. And the perfect build is someone short with a lot of weight on your backside. So I've been blessed. So the first thing is you grab that leader, bring it down. I'm twisting as I go down. I'm bringing it now right next to me here. All I'm doing now is just feeling the tension of that. And what I am doing also when I do this is I'm trying to figure out whether that fish is actually going to shoot off or is it ready to come in while I'm doing this. And you can feel it. You literally can. This is called pinching. So you know that pinch there. So when you're going to wind on and you're going to pinch, I need to communicate with the angler. I'm going to say wind. I'm going to pull and he's going to wind. And then this one here is going to be pinching the same thing and I'm going to say wind and wind. And I'm literally going to do that all the way up. But I need his tension. Without his tension, I've got nothing. I can't pinch. I can't do that. So I need tension. So that's why I keep saying wind as I'm doing, otherwise it'll slip even like that. So I'll do that and I'll literally get all the way up to the leader, which obviously is just behind that. So the next thing that I would do is thing called, like if I want to now lock onto this thing, I'm going to wrap on this leader. Typically, I'm pinching up until the leader and then I'll wrap on that bit. But say we're in a competition situation, we've tagged the fish and I'm not going to let go at that point because if we let it go, it's going to take off. We might have tagged it in the first 5 minutes and we want to get that fish off before, you know, we go on to be could be an hour fight. It's very common that you get a bit window in the beginning and then after that you're in for a long fight. So if I don't want this thing to go, first thing I'm going to bring, I need a bit of line. Does that go backwards? So, like I said, I don't have the leader yet. It's not there, so I'll assume this is my leader. Tighten up, Zay. Go back. Yeah. So again, bring it down close to me, and then I'm going to come up like this. And I'm going to take 1, 2, and I'm going to pull into me like this. And I'm wedging myself in the boat too. Here I'm up against the gunnel. And I'm going to be like this. I'm going to drop my fat ass down, and I'm going to get low like this, like I'm a jockey, because now my weight and my position here is I'm strong. like this. I'm not strong like that. I'm strong like this. So I'm bringing this to me. The next one comes in. 1, 2, and I pull in. Release this one. Come again. 1, 2, and pull in. Now, Zay is a big, strong marlin, and if he was to run, my safety is this. Pull on me, Zay. Just point straight at it, and he'll undo. So it's 2 wraps in, underneath 2 wraps in, and then just repeating that, in, 2 wraps in. It's very important to get that technique right. It's from a safety point of view. We always see these people doing these things. I've seen, and quite often it wraps on your wrist. It's dangerous. So we don't want any of that. All the wrapping is done across here. Okay, and like when you are wrapping, you don't want too much tension from the angler. So typically I'd pinch like that and I'll say, I won't tell him wind, I'll just leave him alone and I'll pull. If it's a winder, he's got to wind a bit of the slack, but so that we don't have this line on the floor. But typically for pinching, you need the tension. For wrapping, you don't want the tension, but you don't want slack line everywhere as well. So that's the releasing. Yeah, if you get that, like I would highly recommend. I did it myself, so I'm going to admit it. I went home when I was taught how to do it, and I went in front of a mirror and practiced it. I did it. You did it a couple of times, and the first time I had to do it on a fish, I was very slow at doing it, and then now I can put myself in all the other positions that really aren't as safe as others. The other thing I'm going to say is we want to bring this line, give me some tension, Zay. You want to bring this line down here is for another reason. Not only am I stronger here, but if this line snaps, it's more likely to go down than straight at your face. And there's an example on here which we'll show you, this was just the other day on a blue marlin we got with Mike and Haley.
No sound?
I don't know if there's sound or not, but I'll get it, he'll let me another way. I don't know if you'll see it without sound, but yeah, you probably don't. You probably didn't see it.
It's a good sound.
Is there sound?
Nah.
No sound. Okay. But you probably saw that action then. So that fish was hardly doing anything, and that's a 150-pound fluorocarbon leader, and that shot me straight in the face, and it was like a gunshot when it went off. You never see it. So I've broken, and you'll see it there. All that. It's very quick, obviously. If you hear the sound, you'd realise how much power that has. And that, like I said, that fish was buggered, and he didn't really do anything. He didn't even shake his head. It was just, there's a point where the fluorocarbon has no stretch, virtually no stretch, and it just pops and it comes back and shoots at you. And it could be a swivel coming back at you if you're grabbing the wind on, or hook and snap. Right, these are all things that have happened. In my case, I've broken a knuckle on one. I've definitely had a cut that went through a jacket and sliced me open here and sliced my arm at the same time, and even hit Haley behind me as well, all in the one motion. So try and keep your leader low. If you ever put a sinker in line, be extra careful of that too, because it comes back pretty
What
fast.
if you're solo and you don't have someone to wind on, like as you're trying to pinch it, if you don't have someone to wind on?
If you're solo, you've got a wind on your rod, so the angler are going to be you're going to wind the wind on right up. You've got to have a short leader, like 9-foot leader max.
What's the shortest you can run the leader?
Oh, look, probably 6 foot or something like that, because you've got a wind on, so the wind on's going to protect. It's just like generally your leader is going to be a bit thinner if you're live baiting. Lure-wise, probably you can still get away with 6 foot. It's just
If you're not running competitions or anything, you can
No.
as short as you want.
short as you want.
Also clearing the deck on the trailer boat and all that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll make it easier. Yep.
All over the floor.
Yeah, I run what is 1.5, which is 8-9 feet. I've never had an issue with that. I find that's very manageable and very safe. I probably just stopped before I was going to show it. But basically, if we weren't running a wind on, the snap swivel at that point of that leader goes straight to the tip, and you've got to basically, you can't pinch, you've got to wrap. You've got to wrap up, and then as you're wrapping up, on the floor gets a fair bit of line. You've got to be really careful. Yep.
Would you prefer fishing with a wind on, or would you prefer all the trace from the end swivel?
I prefer wind on.
What's the reason why you
Just from the safety of having that, of being able to not have that leader on the deck and not getting tangled up in it unless I have to.
If you're doing that on the wind on, it's the same concept as you doing it on the wind on or the trace one?
It is, yeah, except the angler can still wind the leader after you've pulled on it back onto the reel, so it's not sitting on the floor. But most of the time, I'm not wrapping on the wind on. Most of the time, I'm pinching. It's only if we've tagged a fish in a comp and we're trying to get that fish off. We don't want to let it go out and fight it for longer. It's the only reason why I wrap up on it. And generally, in those circumstances, I'm generally running light gauge hooks in lures, or circle hooks with say 100 to 150 pound leaders, which we can break off. Again, you've got to be careful breaking it off, but it's still safe to hold on to. The fish is not going to pull me in the water with that leader there. It's going to break, but it's going to come back at us.
But you were saying ideally cut it if you've got that opportunity.
Yeah, if you get you've got a circle hawk, and you just get close to it if you can. Yeah. And look, the other misconceptions. If it's taken you however long to get a fish 5-10 meters from the boat, and you've got say 8 kilos of drag on it, you don't need 30 kilos of muscle pressure to get that last bit. You're going to scare the thing and it'll just go nuts. You're guiding. Leadering is more guiding that fish to the boat. Once you get on the boat and you grab the nose, hold on as much as you want. That's where.
The wind on also helps a stubborn fight. Generally, it helps the angler a lot. If someone's there, just wind, and just help keep it. Morally, it's nice as well for them.
Yeah, you've got also when you're leadering, when you're in that position like this, if you're in that position, you've got no more give. When you're in this position, you've got give. So that's your shock absorber. It's like your fishing rod. But your arms have got less, you've got more control over that shock absorption than a rod. Like a rod will always bend before it takes drag. So sometimes pinching a fish, leadering it, is the only way you'll get that last bit. We had a blue marlin a couple of years ago that was on 15 kilo line class and with a 100 pound fluorocarbon leader, and it was 3 hours on it. And so we were definitely undergunned. We tried not to leader it for, because over an hour and a half it was 10 metres onto the boat. Just wouldn't come up. And we tried not to leader it. Eventually we said, look, we have to try. And so obviously it was just going to pinch. And as soon as I grabbed the line and started pulling, I could sense it was coming. You can feel it that they're coming. If they're coming, you just keep them coming. You can pretty much, after you do it for a while, you can feel when it's going to shoot off, when it's not. And I can tell straight away, if I've grabbed the leader and I can feel that the tension's there and you know he's going to shoot, there's no point wrapping up unless you want to bust it off, right? You just, yeah.
Did I see you ran a double to the wind on?
Yeah. The only reason for the double is to make the best connection knot. Like it's 100% connection knot. You're making the loop to put the wind on. We generally run only a short double when you've got a wind on. In comps on certain line classes, you've got quite a long section of double wind on and then your final leader. But 15 kilo above, it's basically a 40 foot. We can go into detail, but basically it's 40 feet of length. It's a long.
It's more for connection rather than.
Yeah, it's for the connection.
The end of the wind on has a Dacron loop, and it's a loop to loop connection.
Yeah. We got any questions?
Are there any specific knots you tie considering it's mono to mono for wind on later?
For the wind on. So we tie a plait for the double, and then it's called a cat's paw. It's we can show it to you afterwards. We keep like on the black peat wind on the back of it. You can see the knot really easily. It's very simple. It's basically looping it on itself twice.
When you do get the fish to the boat, you say holding the bill, what sort of speed?
Just in gear,
Just
couple of
going
knots.
along to keep it?
Yeah.
keep
It can be hard any faster than that.
Yeah,
You keep it
enough
going
to
forward.
keep the water flowing.
Yeah. You try and keep the marlin upright. You know, you've got to get their bearings back. We just sort of put pressure on them for a while. Yeah,
Any
Dom?
chips when they're at boat side, just right at the end on, you know, you might have grabbed the bill on snooting it or getting a rope around its bill just to
You can, yeah.
revive it for a bit. So
Yep, you can easily do that. Yep.
So-
So just if you have a loop in your loop in your rope, it's literally all it takes is just to go like that, and then just pull it.
yeah.
That's all it actually needs.
That
It
won't
grips.
get jagged on the bill.
Oh, it does a little bit, but you'll have to undo it.
Yeah, once you loosen tension, it will
Yeah,
slip straight off.
yeah. But it does grip it strong enough to tow it.
Yeah, it's a bit easier than holding the bill.
Can be, especially black marlin. They don't like you holding the bill. Yeah, they really shake. Right? So you just be mindful that black marlin can come up quite docile until you touch its nose. Yeah. If they don't jump in the boat.
For someone that's just starting to get into
Yeah.
it, what's the best setup, for someone that doesn't have the thousands of dollars set as about?
I would say like something like a Shimano Tinos type reel. You'll get away with that reel. You'll catch plenty of fish on that reel. A rod wise, like a Tagum rod is a tough rod. A fair bit of glass on that rod. It's tough. No roller in the tip, but it's not a problem.
Yeah, that's what I've originally got now is a
Yeah.
Ross 30 and the Tagum.
Yeah.
What about the TLDs?
It's not much different, really, and they're not much different in price either. I would say that we get asked that sort of question a fair bit, and you can easily you'll get away with it. But I will say, people come and spend a couple of $1,000s on a brim outfit, but you can catch the same brim on a hand line. And I used to say that you can't do that with marlin fishing, but Jay's mate proved us wrong the other day. Got a marlin on a hand line, but you know what I mean. Like,
$8.
they are big, powerful fish. They are going to put a lot of pressure on your reels. Some of the cheaper reels we find when we're spooling them, they can overheat just by spooling them. So obviously when we're spooling them, the reels turning fast and we're putting it under pressure when it's going on. It's no different to a marlin ripping line off with a lot of drag really fast. So they don't handle the heat as well as the higher end reels. And I'll also say that I would rather have 2 really good outfits than 4 average outfits for game fishing. The biggest thing I reckon people starting out is they're running too much stuff. Like, I've definitely been a part of boats that have won tournaments that were lure fishing, chasing blue marlin on 15 kilo, and they just ran 3 rods, 3 lures. And the reason for it is that we could clear the deck really fast and get onto that fish really quick before that belly comes, before that problem of the blue marlin going ballistic with so much line out on light line class. So I know everybody wants to put more and more stuff, and yes, we love selling you all the stuff, but just keep in mind that when you're starting out, probably less is a lot more. And I know the guys that the guys that we fish, which are very good fishers, they're running very simple programs. Yeah.
If you're only going to run 3 lures, say you're solo or
Yeah.
experienced crew, what positions would you run? What would you leave out, or
Well, it depends on your outriggers situation.
with outriggers? Yeah.
With outrigger, if you need to clear outrigger, I wouldn't put the outrigger out that is on the side where you're driving.
Center console.
Well, still,
Shotgun rig it, don't put it up.
maybe just don't put one out on your starboard side. I don't know. That's the way I would. If I was,
Yeah,
depends
but
where you want to
still
fight it
run-
from.
Would you get rid of the ones in close and run
No,
shotgun and?
I would put, like, ideally I'd have, say, 2 on the rigger and 1 in the long corner. Yeah.
If you're running 3 lures without outriggers, you run them further back on the cleaner water?
First thing I would do is I'd run lures that are straight running lures, like that, or bullets, right? Because you don't, with slant lures like that, it's good to have more angles. They work better with riggers and angles. You got more control over these actions. Where this style of lure, whether it's a cooler or a fat boy, or there's a whole bunch of other ones there, straight running lures, that's what I'd run on.
Or would you run them further back as well?
It doesn't have to be further back, but you'll find with trailer boat, and without riggers, there's a lot more whitewash going on, right? So see if you can get a bit out of that whitewash. It's easier for them to eat it.
Where's been your most strike rate from all of it? Is it more the short corner, the more the long corner?
There's a little bit in some boats have a bit of that. So some boats get more bites in close. So I find some of those. There's definitely some boats that raise a lot of fish, and I'm not talking because they've got Omni. I'm talking like just if we go back a bit older school to that. But there's certain boats like I don't know 35 Bertrams, those type of boats. I've found that diesel rumbling or that they do seem to raise some fish in there, and I don't know. Some boats I've fished on have struggled to get bites in close, and some get consistently bites in close. So that to me, that's only maybe there's a bit of a theory on engines, whether that's the bubble or the noise that's bringing fish in. Yeah, I like having a drop back on my lures, even in the corners. Ideally, on your outriggers, if you have 2 drop backs on each one for your corners, I just feel there's enough time for that. If, like in a short corner, if the fish comes up from behind and grabs it, there's a lot of pressure for that pulling that hook straight forward of it. With the drop back, it's got enough time to grab it and sort of just turn for a split second for your hook up, right? So,
Just to add on to what you said before about running multiple rods and stuff. At the end of the day, like it doesn't matter how many teasers you really put out. Like the boat is the biggest attractant, and your engine noise in the wake. Most of the time, the fish is just coming up. That's going to hear the outboard and come and have a look at what's there, and then see your lures and come up on that.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, even with Max on one of our first trips that we went out with Max and little Zay, we went out to the bait station, and as soon as we slowed up, we put a teaser in the water, and a marlin came up to it. I didn't have the circle hooks out yet. I literally had 1 teaser lure going out, and a marlin came up. So he obviously followed the bubbles and the noise and all that. He just come straight to the boat. So that was fun.
When you're talking about the water temperatures, so you're looking for the break between the warm current and the cold current, and if it lines up with less current, so you're looking like with a smaller boat, if you're looking for that to be closer to the shore, not necessarily out of the shelf, but just where that point is more important than, well, not more important, but as important as structure.
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, as we're getting closer in, we have more structure generally, right? So from the inshore marlin bite, its structure is important because it can hold bait, no different. But it's the same theory goes with the currents and the temperatures on distance further out. So it's just about, my understanding is a bait fish, whatever temperature they're in, don't like to go from one temp to another temp. And so that's one of the factors in too. So if you've got slack water and the bait is sitting in that, they don't really want to go anywhere else.
As soon as you see bait, and like you jig up bait or whatnot, are you straight away live baiting, or are you, like for argument's sake, you're going out and you come across a bait full low, would you straight away be?
It just depends. The time of year, there's a lot of factors in that. So time of year, where you are.
Like for now, for argument's sake, this time of the year.
This time of year, if you're, say you go at the shelf And so you're going, typically you're saying, look, you know, I'm going to start in 80 fathoms and I'm going to go to, bait station, typically like 80 to 110 fathoms. If you get into 70 fathoms and there's bait, absolutely. If the birds are working and there's bait there, yeah, you will mark fish in that. That being said, sometimes we find a lot of bait sitting in there, and for some reason, the marlin are just a mile past it for some reason. I don't know why. A couple of seasons ago, all the bait was on the shelf, and then in 300 fathoms, all the striped marlin was sitting there.
Yes, I was asking, like, when do you know when to start live bait? Do you know what I mean? Like,
I'd probably, I mean, like, you can keep prospecting. So, like, if you jig bait, get the bait, and then I probably would just keep prospecting, mark it, keep having a look around. Yeah.
If you've heard there's a lot of fish in that area from the day before, there's all those factors into it, right? I mean, a few weeks ago when we went out, we marked a lot of bait and it looks really good. We marked the fish, but we kept switching, and I knew that there was a temp break in 300 fathoms or 400 fathoms. So I said, look, I'm going to just go out there in the morning, keep going out, unless I saw something made sense. I went a bit further, got out to 300 odd, and it looked rubbish. It didn't mark any bait. There was just no life in it, and there wasn't much of a temp movement. Came back in, and at 160 fathoms, we had a double on that. So we got one of them out of the two, and then we worked that area, and within half an hour we had another double hook up and got those two. So yeah, when you hook a fish, please go back to that spot. It's one of the best things you can do is go back to the same spot, no matter what species it is. Even blues we found. Once you find it, for some reason there's like a patch for some reason, yeah. And it's not always the bait that we can see. They're eating other things too that we don't, not necessarily marking, squid, etc. So.
And are you saving, say you're looking at your charts the night beforehand, are you sort of making a mental note of your coordinates and
I'll check it.
Because obviously you don't have that coverage out at sea.
No, so I like to check in the morning as well, though.
Yeah, so you'll save that or whatever before you
go
out.
Yeah,
so you can look at that on your phone.
We do that, and then some of the boats that we're going out now have got Starlink, and so you're getting updated ones as well. Technology is just... Yeah, you've got some sounders will upload Fruno's got it live as you go. Yep, we've got gyros, PS70s, all this technology to find marlin. It's making competition fishing very interesting at the moment with Omni boats versus non-Omni boats. So yeah. Any other questions or?
I wanted to ask about collecting bait when you're out wide. Like I'm kind of inshore collecting bait I'm okay with, but if you're kind of out, let's say near the shelf, how do you go about catching big slimies or big bait right out at sea?
Yeah, so obviously we use bait jigs out there. Not always the big ones, so it depends on the bait that's down there. So there's some bait jigs that are smaller that are really strong. So we might start with that or use some of the bigger ones, which might be like a 1.0 size or 2.0 or 3.0, whatever it is. The last few years we've been using little electric reels, which it makes life really easy. It's the best. So yeah, but what that's allowed us to do is drop down on a bait school that might be 120 metres or something like that down there. And it might not be that amazing looking, it might not be that big, but we'll have a crack at it just because we know it's not hard work to lift it back up.
What's the weight of your lead on the bottom there?
Oh, like it could be 8, 10 ounce.
Decent, yeah.
Because the on those electric reels, we're only using like 30-pound braids. It's pretty thin. It goes real fast straight down. Yeah. But that was only the last year or so. Before that, we used to manually have to wind them up. And we would typically use something like a stick bait rod which makes it really hard to wind up. But when you get them up, you can literally lift them up and into the boat and try not damage them too much. But yeah,
you're just literally dropping the bait jig until it stops. There's no jiggling, nothing like that. Mark the score, drop. As soon as it stops, don't keep it there for too long. Just gradual wind, I find it. Don't pump the wind.
like what
Yeah.
I'm dropping baits on is
Yeah.
probably,
Yeah.
well, I
Yeah.
wouldn't know what to
So-
jig out at sea on.
So if you see bait and it goes up something like that, you'll see a bit where it goes up high. And if you see at the top of it and it's more like individuals on the top, generally that's your, like if there's yellowtail and there's big slimies, that bit on the top is your big slimies. Yep. So when that's, every sounder's a bit different. You got to get used to your own sounders, but generally that's what we find. So sometimes people will be next to us and catching yakkers and you might be getting slimies, and it's literally because you're on that little bit and you may have to drive around and find that little bit. Right now there's been heaps of little bait out there, and these little, what are those tuners? Little
bullet tuners.
Bullet tuners, like that size, which are a good bait, but they don't survive very long. Yeah, but bait collection is an important part of your day. If you can catch some bait in the morning before you go out, great. Otherwise, spend a little bit of time on the shelf, get some bait. If you can find it there, it's well worth it. Obviously lure fishing can be really relaxing. You don't have to think and look. There's an element of that's really good. So think of the right type of lures and the right hook gauges and drag settings. And feel free to come and ask us these questions. We've covered a very big, wide range of game fishing here. If there's something you don't understand, please come and ask us. We'll try and make it as simple to start with. I think we got any more questions, or we got a couple of prizes to give. We've got a helper here. I think he can't look at it.
Don't look.
Hey. So this is going to be one of the prizes. Hold this in one hand. All right. Don't look.
I'm not.
Rob Floyd. There we go.
Give that to him.
Zay will give you a lure. We'll do, let's do a couple more. Let's do 2 more. Good. This one's a good one.
It's going to pay to get up.
Marcus Green.
Oh,
There we go. You can get a pelagic fish measurer. So if you want to see the size of your marlin,
this
you can
is a
just.
good thing to yeah.
It's pretty cool. little
Everyone
thing.
always wants to know how big their marlin might have been. So measure the short length, and they'll give you a little chart.
Yeah. What do we got? Let's do a scale. Liam Mills. Oh, so you can check your drag tails now.
Should be easy to grab though.
Cool. Thank you, everyone. If you've got any other questions, just please, we're here to help. Thank you.